Jake Harper stood in the control room of Earth Defense Station Sentinel. His eyes were fixed on the large screen in front of him. He was an admiral now, the highest rank he could reach. 7 years of hard work had brought him here. 7 years of protecting Earth from threats that came from beyond the stars. The screen showed something that made his stomach turn. 53 ships had just appeared at the edge of the solar system. They came out of nowhere, like ghosts, materializing from the darkness of space. The computer systems had never seen ships like these before. Their design was strange, their energy signatures unknown. But one thing was clear. These ships were built for war. Jake had been through many first contact situations. Most of them ended peacefully. Some did not. He had learned to read the signs, to understand when a species came in peace or came with bad intentions. These ships sent a clear message. They were not here to talk. Casey Brooks, a young lieutenant who worked at the communications desk, turned to face him. Her face was pale. She had been working this station for only 2 years. This was probably her first real crisis. Jake could see her hands shaking slightly as she touched the controls. "Sir, we have an incoming transmission," Casey said. Her voice was steady despite her obvious fear. Jake approved. A good officer learned to control their emotions in battle. "It's broadcasting on every frequency we have, audio and video both. Show me," Jake ordered. He crossed his arms over his chest. His uniform felt tight suddenly. Something about this situation felt wrong. He could not put his finger on it, but his instincts were screaming at him. Something personal was about to happen. The screen changed. Static filled the display for a moment. Then a face appeared. A woman's face. Jake felt his heart stop beating. The air left his lungs in a rush. His hands dropped to his sides. Around him, the bridge crew continued their work, checking weapon systems and defense grids. But Jake could not hear them anymore. All he could see was her face. Lyra, his wife. His ex-wife, technically, though they had never divorced. She had simply disappeared one day 10 years ago, leaving him with nothing but a note and a broken heart. He had searched for her. The entire planet had searched for her, but she had vanished completely as if she had never existed at all. Her hair was the same. It looked like liquid silver, flowing down past her shoulders. Her eyes were violet, a color that did not exist in human genetics. Those eyes had once looked at him with love and warmth. Now they were cold, hard. The eyes of a military commander who had seen too much death. "People of Earth," Lyra said. Her voice echoed through the bridge. It had a strange quality to it, something not quite human. Jake remembered that voice whispering to him in the dark. He remembered it laughing at his jokes. He remembered it saying she loved him. "I am Crown Princess Lyra of the Valith Empire. Your world has been selected for integration into our empire." Integration. Such a clean word. Such a peaceful-sounding word. But Jake knew what it meant. Conquest, slavery, the end of human freedom. He had studied the reports from other species. He knew what happened when the great empires came calling. "You have 72 hours to surrender," Lyra continued. She did not blink. She did not show any emotion at all. "All governments must dissolve. All military forces must stand down. If you comply, your people will be treated fairly. If you resist, we will use force. The choice is yours." The transmission ended. The screen went black. For a long moment, nobody on the bridge spoke. They all stared at the empty screen, trying to process what they had just heard. Earth had been threatened before, but never like this, never with such certainty, such absolute confidence. Then chaos erupted. Officers began shouting reports. Someone was calling the president. Someone else was trying to calculate how many ships Earth could mobilize in 72 hours. The defense coordinator was screaming about getting the orbital platforms online. Everyone had a job to do, and they were doing it with the efficiency that came from years of training. But Jake just stood there. He could not move. His mind was trying to make sense of what he had just seen. Lyra was alive. Lyra was here. And Lyra was threatening to destroy everything he had worked to protect. Casey appeared at his side. She touched his arm gently, trying to get his attention. Jake blinked and looked down at her. The young lieutenant's face was full of concern. She had noticed his reaction. Of course she had. He had frozen like a statue the moment Lyra's face appeared. "Sir," Casey said quietly. She glanced around to make sure no one else was listening. "Admiral Harper, are you all right? Do you need to sit down?" Jake shook his head. He forced himself to focus. He was an admiral. He had responsibilities. His personal feelings did not matter right now. Earth needed him to be strong. Earth needed him to lead. "I'm fine, Lieutenant, just surprised. I wasn't expecting a transmission." Casey did not look convinced, but she did not push. Instead, she asked the question that was probably burning in her mind, the question that would soon be on everyone's lips. "Sir, if you don't mind me asking, do you know her? That princess? You looked like you had seen a ghost." Jake closed his eyes for a moment. He could lie. He could tell Casey that he had simply been shocked by the threat. But lies had a way of coming out, especially during a war. And this was going to be a war. He could feel it in his bones. Besides, if Lyra had come back now, she must have a reason. And that reason probably involved him. "I was married to her," Jake said quietly. The words felt strange in his mouth. 10 years ago, before she disappeared. I woke up one morning and she was gone. We never found out what happened to her. Until now. Casey's eyes went wide. Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She stared at Jake like he had just told her the sun was actually made of ice. Finally, she managed to speak. "Your wife is an alien princess, and she's leading an invasion fleet against Earth?" "Ex-wife, technically," Jake said. He tried to smile, but it felt wrong on his face. "Though we never officially ended things. Hard to divorce someone when they vanish into thin air." Casey looked like she wanted to ask 1,000 more questions. But before she could speak, the main communication system beeped. It was the emergency frequency, the one reserved for the president and the top military commanders. Jake moved to answer it, grateful for the distraction. The next 4 hours passed in a blur. Jake attended meeting after meeting, each one more urgent than the last. The president wanted to know everything about the alien fleet. The military chiefs wanted to know if Earth could win a fight. The science advisors wanted to know about the technology level of the Valeth Empire. And everyone, absolutely everyone, wanted to know about Jake's relationship with the princess who was threatening to conquer them all. Jake told them everything he knew. About how Lyra had arrived on Earth in a damaged ship. About how she had claimed to be running from a war. About how they had fallen in love. About their marriage. About her disappearance. Some people looked at him with suspicion. Was he a traitor? Had he known she would come back? Others looked at him with pity. They could see the pain in his eyes, the old wounds that had been ripped open. A few looked at him with calculation. They wondered if his connection to Lyra could be used somehow. By the time Jake returned to his quarters on the station, he was exhausted. He sat down on his bed and stared at the wall. His room was small but comfortable. He had lived here for 3 years, ever since taking command of Sentinel. It had become his home. On his desk was a photograph. It was old now, the colors slightly faded. It showed a younger Jake and Lyra on their wedding day. They were standing in a park in Geneva, the Earth government's neutral meeting ground. Lyra was wearing a simple white dress. Jake was in his dress uniform. They were both smiling, looking at each other like nothing else in the universe mattered. Jake picked up the photograph. He had looked at it 1,000 times over the past 10 years. Each time he had wondered where she was, if she was alive, if she ever thought about him. Now he knew the answers. She was alive. She was a princess, and she was about to start a war with his planet. He put the photograph back down and lay on his bed. Sleep would not come easily tonight. In 72 hours, everything would change. Either Earth would surrender and lose its freedom, or Earth would fight and possibly lose everything. And somewhere out there in one of those 53 ships was the woman he had loved more than life itself. Jake closed his eyes and tried not to think about what tomorrow would bring. But he knew one thing for certain. Before this was over, He would have to face Lyra again. He would have to look into those violet eyes and understand why she had left, why she had come back, and why she was willing to destroy the world they had once dreamed of sharing together. 10 years ago, Jake Harper was a completely different person. He was 28 years old, fresh out of the military academy with top marks in tactical strategy and alien relations. The world was still new to the idea of life beyond Earth. First contact had happened only 5 years before that, when a peaceful trade ship from the Zephon Collective had landed in the middle of the Sahara Desert. Everything changed after that day. Governments scrambled to create new departments. The United Nations formed the First Contact Division, a special group dedicated to dealing with alien species. Earth had to grow up fast. They learned that the galaxy was full of life, some friendly and some dangerous. They learned that humanity was late to the party, and they had a lot of catching up to do. Jake had been assigned to the monitoring station in Geneva. His job was simple: watch the sky, listen to the signals, report anything unusual. It was boring work most of the time.
Days would pass with nothing but static and the occasional message from legitimate traders.
But Jake did not mind. He was serving his planet, and that was enough. Then, on a cold October morning, everything changed. The sensors picked up a ship entering Earth's orbit. It was small, barely larger than a fighter jet. Its hull was damaged, showing signs of weapons fire and hull breaches. The ship was leaking atmosphere and trailing debris. It was dying, and so was whoever piloted it. The military scrambled jets immediately. They were prepared for anything from an accident to an attack. But as they approached the ship, they received a transmission, a voice weak and strained speaking in broken English.
"Help, please, I mean no harm."
Ship failing. Need help. Jake was part of the team that brought the ship down safely. They used tractor beams, a technology they had only recently learned from the Zephon. The small craft landed in a secure military facility outside Geneva. Armed soldiers surrounded it immediately. Doctors stood by with medical equipment designed for alien biology. Nobody knew what would come out of that ship. The hatch opened slowly. A figure stumbled out, coughing and gasping for air. She was humanoid, which was a relief. Many alien species were not, and that made communication difficult. She was tall, maybe 6 feet, with silver hair that seemed to glow even in the harsh lights of the hangar. Her skin was pale, almost white, with faint blue markings along her arms and neck. And her eyes were violet, a deep purple that looked almost unreal. She collapsed before anyone could catch her. The medical team rushed forward. Jake watched from the observation deck as they carried her away. He could not stop thinking about those eyes. There had been fear in them. Real, genuine fear. Whatever she was running from, it was bad enough to make her risk coming to an unknown planet. The woman recovered quickly. Within 3 days, she was awake and talking. She spoke several languages fluently, including English. She said her name was Lyra. She claimed to be from a species called the Valeth, a powerful empire that controlled hundreds of star systems. She said she was running from a war, a civil conflict that was tearing her civilization apart. Jake was assigned to be part of her security detail. It was his job to watch her, to make sure she did not try to escape or hurt anyone. But as the days turned into weeks, he found himself doing more than just watching. They talked. Long conversations about everything and nothing. She wanted to know about Earth, about human culture and history. He wanted to know about the stars, about the worlds she had seen. Lyra told him about her life. She was born into royalty, the daughter of an emperor who ruled over billions. She had been raised to fight, to lead armies, to make hard decisions. But she had also been raised in a world where love was a weakness and marriage was a political tool. Her father had arranged for her to marry a warlord, a cruel man who wanted her title and her armies. I refused, she told Jake one evening. They were sitting in the facility's garden, a small green space that had been built to make alien visitors feel more comfortable. I told my father I would not marry for politics. I would marry for love or not at all. He was furious. He said I was weak, that I did not understand duty. What happened? Jake asked. He was sitting close to her, close enough that he could smell her scent. It was strange but not unpleasant, like ozone mixed with some kind of flower. War happened, Lyra said simply. My father died in battle. My brothers started fighting each other for the throne. The warlord I was supposed to marry declared that I would be his whether I wanted it or not, so I took a ship and ran. I jumped through hyperspace randomly, trying to lose anyone following me. I ended up here. Jake felt a deep sympathy for her. She was alone on a strange world, cut off from everything she knew. He understood what that felt like. After his parents died in a shuttle accident, he had felt lost and alone too. Maybe that was why they connected so easily. 6 months passed. The First Contact Council granted Lyra asylum on Earth. She could stay as long as she wanted, as long as she followed human laws and did not cause trouble. She agreed immediately. She said she had no desire to return to the Empire. She wanted to start over, to build a new life where she could be more than just a princess or a weapon. Jake and Lyra spent more and more time together. He showed her around Earth, taking her to places that tourists never saw. They watched the sunrise over the Alps. They walked through markets in Morocco. They attended concerts in New York and ate street food in Bangkok. Lyra loved everything about Earth. She said it was messy and chaotic and absolutely beautiful. "Your people are kind," she told him one day. They were in a park in Geneva, the same park where they would later get married. In the Empire, kindness is seen as weakness. Strong people take what they want and destroy what they cannot have. But here, you help each other. You care about strangers. It is strange, but I like it. We are not always kind, Jake admitted. We have wars. We have crime. We hurt each other sometimes. But yeah, I guess most people try to do the right thing when they can. Lyra smiled at him. It was a real smile, not the polite expression she wore around other people. That is what makes you special, Jake. You try. Even when it is hard. Even when it would be easier to be cruel. That was the moment Jake realized he loved her. Not just liked her or felt attracted to her. He loved her completely in a way he had never loved anyone before. It terrified him. How could a human and an alien make it work? What kind of future could they have? But Lyra had the same feelings. One evening, as they walked back to her apartment, she stopped and looked at him. Her violet eyes were serious. Jake, I need to tell you something. I think I am falling in love with you. I know it is complicated. I know we are from different worlds, but I cannot help how I feel. Jake laughed, relief flooding through him. I love you too. I have for months. I just did not know how to say it. They kissed under the streetlights of Geneva. It was strange and awkward and perfect. Her lips were cooler than his. Her skin smooth in a way that human skin was not. But none of that mattered. What mattered was the feeling in his chest, the certainty that he had found something rare and precious. A year later, they got married. It was a small ceremony, with only a few friends and Jake's sister attending. Lyra wore a simple white dress she had picked out herself. Jake wore his dress uniform. They exchanged vows under a tree in the park, promising to love each other for as long as they lived. The next 3 years were the happiest of Jake's life. They got an apartment together. Lyra got a job teaching alien languages and culture to human students. Jake continued working for the First Contact Division, climbing the ranks. They talked about having children someday, though they were not sure if it was even biologically possible. They made plans for the future, dreams about growing old together. But then one morning, Jake woke up and she was gone. The bed beside him was empty and cold. Her clothes were still in the closet. Her toothbrush was still in the bathroom. But she was nowhere to be found. On the kitchen table was a note written in her careful handwriting. I'm sorry. My past has found me. I have to go back to protect you and your world. Forget me, live well. I love you always, Lyra. Jake did not cry at first. He called the police. He called his superiors. He called everyone he could think of. Search teams scoured the city. Satellites looked for any sign of a ship leaving Earth. But there was nothing. Lyra had vanished as completely as she had arrived, leaving only questions and a broken heart behind. For months, Jake searched for answers. But eventually, he had to accept the truth. She was gone. He would probably never know why or where she went. All he could do was move forward, carry the memory of their time together, and try to rebuild his life. He threw himself into his work. He trained harder, studied more, pushed himself to be better. Within 7 years, he became an admiral, one of the youngest in history. But no matter how successful he became, there was always an empty space inside him where Lyra used to be. And now, 10 years after she left, she had returned. Not as the refugee he had loved. Not as the woman who laughed at his jokes and held his hand under the stars. She had returned as a conqueror, leading an army to destroy the life they had built together. 12 hours had passed since Lyra's ultimatum. Earth's governments were in chaos. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to negotiate. A few wanted to surrender immediately to save lives. Jake had attended 6 emergency meetings already, each one more frantic than the last. But his mind was elsewhere. He was in his private quarters when the message came. It appeared on his personal computer, the one he used for his private files. The message was encrypted, using a code that only 2 people in the universe knew. It was the code he and Lyra had created during their marriage, a way to send each other secret messages when they were apart for work. Jake's hands shook as he decoded it. The message was short and direct. Docking Bay 7, maintenance shift change. 2200 hours, come alone, please. There was no signature, but none was needed. Only Lyra could have sent this. Jake looked at the clock. It was 21:30. He had 30 minutes to decide what to do. This could be a trap. It could be a trick to capture or kill him. But something in his gut told him it was real. Lyra wanted to talk. And despite everything, he wanted to hear what she had to say. He put on a simple uniform without any rank markings. He took a small weapon just in case, but he hoped he would not need it. Then he made his way through the station's corridors, using his security clearance to avoid questions. Nobody stopped an admiral, even one walking alone late at night. Docking Bay 7 was used for maintenance work. Right now, during the shift change, it would be empty for about 15 minutes. It was the perfect place for a secret meeting. Jake entered the bay and looked around. The lights were dim. Repair equipment lay scattered across the floor, and in the shadows near the far wall, a figure waited. Lyra stepped into the light. She was not wearing her military uniform. Instead, she wore a simple gray cloak that covered most of her body. Her silver hair was pulled back. Her violet eyes looked tired, with dark circles underneath them. She looked older than Jake remembered. The years had not been kind to her. "Jake," she said softly. Her voice cracked slightly. For a moment, the hard military commander was gone. In her place was the woman he had loved, the woman who had disappeared without a real goodbye. "Why?" Jake asked. He did not move closer. He stayed near the door, keeping his distance. "Why did you leave? Why are you here now like this? What happened to you?" Lyra closed her eyes. When she opened them again, they were wet with tears. Jake had never seen her cry before, not even once during their 3 years together. "My father died," she said quietly. "The Emperor fell in battle against a rival faction. The moment he died, my brothers went to war with each other." "I know," Jake said. "You told me that in your note. But that does not explain why you left. You could have stayed. We could have faced it together." "No," Lyra said firmly. "You do not understand. My brothers knew where I was. They sent assassins to Earth. 6 teams of professional killers. They were going to murder you to force me to come back. I could not let that happen. I could not let you die because of me." Jake felt his anger drain away, replaced by shock. "Assassins? Here? On Earth?" "I killed them all," Lyra said simply. "All 6 teams. It took me 3 days. Then I knew I had to leave. More would come. They would keep coming until you were dead or I returned. So I left. I went back to the Empire to end the war." "You went back to save me," Jake said slowly, trying to process this information. "You left me to protect me." "Yes," Lyra whispered. "I am sorry I could not tell you, but if you knew, you would have tried to help. You would have fought beside me. And you would have died. I could not allow that." Jake walked closer to her. He could see the scars on her arms now, marks that had not been there before. Battle scars. "What happened after you went back?" Lyra looked down at her hands. "I fought. For 5 years I fought my brothers and their armies. It was brutal, Jake. Entire planets burned. Billions died. But slowly, I won. I had the loyalty of the old guard, the soldiers who remembered my father, and I had learned things from you. Strategy, compassion, the value of life. I united the Empire through strength and mercy. So you became Empress, Jake said, and now you have come to conquer Earth, to finish what your brothers started. No, Lyra said sharply. I came to save Earth. You do not understand the situation. The Empire is dying, Jake. We have consumed all the resources in our territory. We have fought so many wars that our population is collapsing. We need to expand or we will cease to exist. The Council of Lords is demanding new territory. They are hungry for conquest. So you chose us, Jake said bitterly. How kind of you. Lyra stepped forward and grabbed his arm. Her grip was strong, desperate. I chose Earth because it was the only way to protect you. The Council wanted to send someone else, a general named Caney. He is brutal, Jake. He destroys civilizations for fun. He would have burned your cities and enslaved your people. At least with me leading the invasion, I can ensure you are treated fairly. Jake pulled his arm free. We do not want fair treatment. We want freedom. We want to live our own lives without an empire telling us what to do. Then you will die, Lyra said flatly. The warmth left her voice, replaced by the cold tone of a military commander. You have no idea what is out there, Jake. What is coming? Your technology is impressive for a species that just learned to build faster than light ships. But compared to the Empire, you are children playing with weapons you barely understand. Maybe, Jake said. But we are human. We have survived ice ages and plagues. We have climbed from caves to the stars. And we do not give up, Lyra. Even when we should. Even when it means we will die trying. Something changed in Lyra's expression. For a moment she looked sad, almost proud. I know, she said quietly. That is what I fell in love with. Your stubborn, impossible hope. Your refusal to accept defeat. But Jake, please, I am begging you. Do not make me destroy the world we dreamed about together. Surrender. Let me integrate Earth peacefully. I will protect your people. I will make sure they are treated well. As what? Jake asked. As subjects? As slaves? What kind of life is that? As allies, Lyra said. As partners. I will give Earth a seat on the Council. I will ensure your governments maintain local control. You will have more freedom than most species in the Empire. But you must submit to imperial law. You must contribute to the defense of the Empire. That is the deal. Jake shook his head. That is not enough. You know it is not enough. You lived here, Lyra. You saw how we value freedom. You cannot ask us to give that up, not even to save our lives. Lyra's face hardened. Then there is nothing more to say. The ultimatum stands. You have 60 hours left. If Earth does not surrender, I will attack. And I will win, Jake. I have to win. Because if I fail, if I return to the Empire without new territory, the Council will overthrow me. They will send Caney in my place, and he will exterminate every human on this planet just to make a point. Then we will fight, Jake said. We will fight you. We will fight Caney. We will fight anyone who tries to take our freedom, and maybe we will lose. But at least we will lose on our own terms. Lyra stared at him for a long moment. Then she turned away. You are a fool, Jake Harper. You always were. Too brave for your own good. Too willing to fight impossible battles. She walked toward the door, then paused. I loved you. I still love you. But I cannot let that stop me from doing what must be done. I loved you too, Jake said softly. But you already destroyed that love when you left. This is just finishing what you started. Lyra flinched as if he had hit her. For a moment, she looked like she might say something else, but then her expression hardened again. She pulled up her hood and walked out of the docking bay, disappearing into the shadows. Jake stood alone in the empty bay. His chest hurt. His eyes burned with tears he refused to shed. He had gotten his answers. He knew why she left. He knew why she came back, but none of it made him feel better. If anything, he felt worse, because now he knew that when the battle started, he would be fighting the woman he loved, and one of them would probably not survive. He took a deep breath and straightened his shoulders. He was an admiral. Earth needed him to be strong. There would be time for grief later. Right now, he had a war to prepare for. 72 hours passed. The deadline came and went. Earth's answer was not delivered in words. It was delivered through action. Every defense platform in orbit activated at the same moment. Every warship in the human fleet powered up their weapons. 43 nations, often at odds with each other, united for the first time in history. They stood together against a common threat. Jake stood on the bridge of Station Sentinel, looking at the tactical display. Earth's fleet looked impressive on the screen. 300 ships ranging from small fighters to massive carriers. 20 orbital defense platforms, each one armed with enough firepower to destroy a city. Thousands of drone fighters waiting in hidden bays. But he knew the truth. Against the Velith Empire's 53 warships, they were outmatched. Each Imperial ship was larger, better armed, and protected by shields that could withstand incredible punishment. The only advantage humanity had was numbers and determination, and Jake planned to use both. "All ships, this is Admiral Harper," Jake broadcast across the fleet. His voice was calm and steady. "Today we face an enemy that believes we are primitives. They think we will break easily. They think we will surrender out of fear. They are wrong. We are humanity. We have survived ice ages and plagues, world wars and disasters. We have climbed from caves to the stars through sheer determination, and we do not bow to anyone." A cheer erupted across the communication channels. Jake could hear the hope in their voices. They were scared, he knew. Many of them would not survive the day, but they were ready to fight for their home. That was enough. The Velith fleet began to advance. Their ships moved in perfect formation, a display of military discipline that Earth could not match. They expected a short battle. They expected humanity to panic and make mistakes. Instead, they got a coordinated defense that caught them off guard. The first wave of fire came from the defense platforms. Massive railguns launched projectiles at a fraction of the speed of light. The Velith shields absorbed most of the impacts, but the force pushed their lead ships off course. Then the missile platforms fired, sending thousands of warheads toward the enemy fleet. The Velith responded with their plasma weapons. Beams of superheated matter cut through space, striking Earth's outer defenses. 3 platforms exploded immediately. Their crews vaporized before they could escape. Jake watched the tactical display and felt each loss like a knife to his heart. But he could not stop now. "Deploy the drones," Jake ordered. This was the tactic he had been saving. Humanity had learned from every alien encounter, reverse engineering, technology from crashed ships and adapting it to their needs. The drones were small, fast, and controlled by quantum-linked artificial intelligence that made them impossible to jam. Thousands of drones swarmed from hidden bays across the solar system. They moved in chaotic patterns, making them hard to target. The Velith shields were designed to stop large energy weapons and missiles. They struggled against thousands of tiny projectiles, each one moving at incredible speed. 3 Velith destroyers went dark, their shields overwhelmed. Small breaches in their hulls vented atmosphere and disabled critical systems. It was not much, but it was a victory. It showed the Empire that humanity could fight back, but the cost was high. The Velith adjusted their tactics quickly. They began targeting the human ships directly, ignoring the drones. 2 carriers exploded under focused fire. A squadron of fighters vanished in a ball of plasma. Jake watched the casualty count rise and felt sick. 15,000 people dead in the first 10 minutes. And the battle was just beginning. "Sir, incoming transmission from the Imperial flagship," Casey Brooks reported. Her voice was tight with stress. "It's Princess Lyra. She is demanding to speak with you directly." Jake hesitated for only a moment. "Put her through. Audio only." Lyra's voice filled the bridge. It was cold and professional, but Jake could hear the stress underneath. "Jake, cease fire immediately. We need to talk. This is your last chance to end this peacefully." "Now you want to talk?" Jake replied, his voice hard. "After 6 of my stations are debris, after 15,000 of my people are dead? What changed your mind, Lyra?" There was a pause. Then Lyra spoke again, and this time her voice was different, vulnerable. You are costing me ships I cannot afford to lose. My fleet commanders are demanding I use the planet killer weapons. I have been holding them back, Jake. But if you keep fighting, I will not have a choice. They will override my authority. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. Planet killer weapons. Devices that could destroy entire worlds. The Empire had them, and they were willing to use them. But he could not let fear control his decisions. Then use them, Jake said coldly. Burn us all. Kill every human on this planet. But know this, Lyra. Every transmission from this battle is being broadcast to every species we have made contact with. The entire galaxy is watching you right now. Silence. Jake could imagine her face, the shock and horror spreading across it. You are broadcasting this? She asked slowly. Every second, Jake confirmed. Every alien species within 50 light years is receiving our signal. They are watching the supposedly merciful Princess Lyra, the Empress who ended a civil war with wisdom and compassion, prepared to exterminate a species that only wanted freedom. How do you think that will look? You are bluffing, Lyra said, but her voice lacked conviction. The Empire would brand you as rebels. Other species would be too afraid to help you. Would they? Jake asked. He leaned forward in his chair, speaking directly into the microphone. Or would they see what we see? An empire so desperate, so weak that it has to attack a species that barely learned to leave its home system. You said it yourself, Lyra. We are impressive for our age. What happens when we have another century? Another 1,000 years? How many species out there are tired of living under the Empire's control? How many just need someone to show them that saying no is possible? Jake watched the tactical display as he spoke. The Valith ships had stopped advancing. They were holding position, waiting for orders. Lyra was thinking. He could imagine her mind working through the possibilities, calculating the risks. You are threatening me, Lyra said finally. You are threatening the Empire. I am offering you a choice, Jake corrected. You can destroy us and become the villain that the galaxy fears and hates. Or you can do something different, something that no empire in history has done. You can choose to be better. Better how? Lyra asked quietly. Make a treaty with us, Jake said. Not surrender, not conquest, partnership. You said the Empire needs resources. We have resources. You need allies for whatever threat is coming from deep space. We are survivors, Lyra. We are good at that. Let us prove it. The Empire does not make treaties with primitives, Lyra said. But Jake could hear the hope in her voice now. The possibility. Then maybe it is time the Empire changed, Jake said. You ended a civil war. You united a fleet that was tearing itself apart. You can change how the Empire operates, and deep down you want to. Because the woman I married believed that strength and compassion were not opposites. She believed that you could be powerful and kind at the same time. The channel went silent. Jake waited, his heart pounding. Everything depended on what Lyra decided in the next few moments. Would she choose the easy path of conquest, or would she take a risk on something new? If I do this, Lyra said finally, if I propose a treaty of alliance instead of conquest, my fleet commanders will challenge me. Some might defect. It could trigger another civil war in the Empire. Then we will help you, Jake said simply. We have been recording everything. We will show the galaxy that humanity stood against the Empire and forced you to negotiate. We will make it clear that Earth is under your personal protection. Any commander who challenges you challenges us too. And Lyra, we are a lot harder to kill than you expected. He could hear her breathing over the channel. Then she laughed, a sound that was half relief and half disbelief. You would stand with me? After everything I have done? After I threatened your world? I would do it for the woman who taught me that the universe is bigger than fear, Jake said. I would do it for the princess who chose love over duty. I would do it for the Empress who might actually be wise enough to change the way things have always been done. The channel went silent again. Then Lyra's voice came back, stronger now, determined. Commander Grant, signal the fleet. Cease all offensive operations immediately. We are entering peace negotiations with the human government. Any ship that refuses is to be considered in mutiny. Jake felt relief flood through him. It was not over yet. There would be negotiations, arguments, battles to come, but they had avoided the worst outcome. Earth would survive. We should meet, Lyra said, face to face, to discuss terms. Neutral ground, Jake agreed. Station Sentinel, my conference room. No guards. Just you and me and the future we are going to build. Just you and me, Lyra echoed. And in those words, Jake heard the echo of everything they had once been. Everything they might become again. The battle stopped. Both fleets held their positions in space, weapons still powered but not firing. It was a strange moment suspended between war and peace. Nobody knew what would happen next. Soldiers on both sides waited for orders, their fingers hovering over triggers, ready to resume the fight at any moment. Jake stood in the conference room, waiting. The room was simple and functional, with a large table in the center and chairs around it. The walls were metal, painted white. There was nothing special about this place. But today it would become the site where history changed direction. The door opened. Lyra walked in alone as promised. She had removed her military uniform and wore simple civilian clothes instead. A dark blue tunic and pants that looked almost human. Her silver hair hung loose around her shoulders. Without the armor and weapons, she looked smaller, more vulnerable, more like the woman Jake had married. They stared at each other for a long moment. 10 years had passed since they last stood this close. 10 years of pain and growth and change. Jake could see new scars on her hands, marks from battles she had fought. She could probably see the gray hairs at his temples, the lines around his eyes from stress and responsibility. Thank you for coming, Jake said finally. Thank you for giving me a reason to, Lyra replied. She moved to the table and sat down. Jake sat across from her, the way they used to sit at their kitchen table eating breakfast and talking about their days. What do you want, Jake? Lyra asked. Her voice was soft now without the military edge. What would it take for Earth to accept peace? Jake leaned back in his chair. He had thought about this during the battle, during the long hours of waiting. We want autonomy, full control over our own governments and laws. We want to keep our military, though we are willing to coordinate with the Empire on defense matters. We want the freedom to trade with whoever we choose. And we want a seat at the Imperial Council, equal voting rights with any other member. Lyra's eyes widened. You are asking for everything. No conquered species has ever gotten those terms. Then do not conquer us, Jake said simply. Make us your allies instead. The first species to join the Empire by choice, not by force. Think about what that would mean, Lyra. Think about the message it would send to every other species watching. Lyra was quiet for a long time. She looked down at her hands, thinking. Jake waited patiently. He had learned patience from her, back when they were together. She used to tell him that the best decisions were never rushed. I can agree to most of that, Lyra said finally, but the Council will demand something in return. Resources, technology, military support when needed. Can Earth agree to those terms? We can, Jake said. As long as the trade is fair. As long as we are partners, not subjects. We will contribute to the Empire's defense. We will share resources, but we do it as equals. Lyra smiled then, a real smile that reminded Jake of better days. You drive a hard bargain, Admiral Harper. You always did. I remember trying to teach you a card game from my world. You won every single hand. You taught me well, Jake said, returning the smile. You taught me that the best victories are the ones where everyone walks away with something they need. They spent the next 6 hours working out the details. It was complicated work, full of compromises and negotiations. But slowly a treaty began to take shape. Earth would become the first free ally of the Valeth Empire. They would maintain their independence while contributing to mutual defense and trade. The Empire would get access to Earth's resources and innovative technology. Earth would get protection from other hostile species and access to the Empire's vast knowledge. When the treaty was finally drafted, Jake and Lyra both sat back, exhausted but satisfied. This is going to cause problems, Lyra said. Some of my commanders will not accept it. Some might even rebel. Then we will handle them together, Jake said. That is what allies do. They support each other. Earth will back you, Lyra. We will make it clear that any challenge to you is a challenge to us as well. And as you learned today, we are not easy to defeat. Lyra reached across the table and took his hand. It was a simple gesture, but it felt monumental. I missed you, she said quietly. Every day for 10 years I missed you. I wanted to come back so many times. But I could not. Not until I had the power to protect you. Jake squeezed her hand gently. I missed you too. I was angry for a long time. But now I understand. You did what you had to do, and maybe somehow it brought us to this moment, to something bigger than just us. Do you think we can make it work? Lyra asked. You and me? An admiral and an empress trying to change the galaxy? I think we already proved the impossible is just another challenge to overcome, Jake said. Besides, I learned something about humanity during this whole situation. We do not give up on the people we love, even when they are leading an invasion fleet. Especially then. Lyra laughed, and it was the most beautiful sound Jake had heard in 10 years. Humanity, as you would say. Humanity and their refusal to accept defeat. That is us, Jake agreed. Stubborn to the end. 3 months later, the Treaty of Earth was officially signed. The ceremony took place in Geneva, in the same park where Jake and Lyra had gotten married years before. Representatives from 43 nations attended. So did diplomats from a dozen alien species who wanted to witness this historic moment. Lyra signed the treaty first, using her title as Empress of the Valeth Empire. Then Jake signed as Earth's representative to the Imperial Council. It was official. Humanity had become the first species in 500 years to join the Empire as free allies rather than conquered subjects. The news spread across the galaxy within days. Other species watched with interest and hope. Some began to question their own relationships with larger empires. Some started to wonder if change was possible. The Valeth Empire did not crumble, but it began to transform, slowly, reluctantly, but undeniably. There were challenges, of course. 3 Imperial commanders did rebel, refusing to accept the treaty. But Jake and Lyra worked together to stop them. Earth's innovative tactics combined with the Empire's military strength proved to be a powerful combination. The rebels were defeated within 6 weeks. After that, the other commanders fell in line. They saw that Lyra was serious about change. They saw that Earth was a valuable ally, not a weak target. And they saw that the old ways of conquest and domination were no longer the only path forward. Jake and Lyra spent most of their time working on the treaty implementation. There was so much to do, so many details to work out. Trade agreements, defense protocols, cultural exchange programs, technology sharing. It was exhausting work, but it was also exciting. They were building something new together, something that had never existed before. But they also made time for themselves. They would meet in private when they could, talking about more than just politics and war. They talked about their years apart, the battles they had fought, the people they had become. They talked about the future, about what they wanted from life now that the immediate crisis was over. One evening, 6 months after the treaty signing, Jake and Lyra sat together in his quarters on Station Sentinel. They were looking out the viewport at Earth, watching the planet rotate slowly against the backdrop of stars. It was peaceful, quiet, perfect. Do you think we can make it work? Lyra asked, repeating the question she had asked months ago. A human admiral and an alien empress trying to balance 2 worlds? We already are making it work, Jake said. He put his arm around her shoulders and she leaned against him the way she used to before everything fell apart. We stopped a war. We created a new kind of alliance. We proved that different species can work together as equals. If we can do all that, we can figure out the rest. Lyra was quiet for a moment. Then she said, I want to stay. Not just as Empress visiting Earth, I want to live here at least part of the time. I want to rebuild what we lost, if you want that too. Jake felt his heart jump. He had hoped for this, but had not dared to ask. I want that more than anything. We can figure out the logistics. You will need to travel to the Empire regularly for council meetings. But when you are here, this can be home. Our home. Our home, Lyra repeated, testing the words. Then she smiled, that brilliant smile that made her eyes light up. I like the sound of that. They sat together in comfortable silence, watching Earth turn below them. So much had happened in the past year. So much pain and fear and struggle, but they had come through it together. They had found their way back to each other, different than before, but maybe stronger for it. Jake, Lyra said softly. Yes? Thank you for not giving up. Thank you for fighting for us, for Earth, for the possibility that things could be different. You changed the galaxy today. You know that, right? Jake shook his head. We changed it together. That is how it should be. That is how it will always be from now on. Lyra turned and kissed him. It was gentle and sweet and full of promise. When they broke apart, she was smiling. Humanity, she said. Your stubborn, beautiful, impossible humanity. That is us, Jake agreed, pulling her close. We do not know how to quit, and we never will. Outside the viewport, Earth continued its slow rotation. Somewhere down there, billions of people were living their lives, unaware of how close they had come to destruction. But they were safe now, protected by a treaty that changed the rules, defended by an alliance built on respect and choice rather than force and fear. The future was uncertain. There would be more challenges ahead, more battles to fight. But for now, in this moment, everything was perfect. Jake and Lyra had found each other again. Earth had earned its place among the stars. And the galaxy had learned that sometimes the smallest and newest species could teach the oldest empires something new. Hope, determination, the refusal to accept defeat. These were humanity's gifts to the universe, and they were gifts that would echo across the stars for generations to come.